Welcome to the Gauntlet Interviews. Tonight, Quirin of Ministry presents his vision of metal via his singular project, Three-Headed Snake, the most evocative and original new metal to hit the scene in a decade. Sin is joined by his fellow Ministry axemen, Cesar Soto and Derek S. Abrams on drums. Check out the new single, Wisdom Screams, on YouTube now.
Hello?
Hello, is this Sin?
Yes, it is.
My name is Ken Larson. I'm with the Gauntlet. Okay,
Yeah,
so
everyone butchers it, man.
where are we at today? Los Angeles, or I
Yeah.
guess it's probably better to say where in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is practically its own country, you know?
Yeah, I'm in Burbank, actually.
Okay. And is that the title track I'm seeing with the female on the first frame? And that's a cool name. That is a cool ass name for a song. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many connotations there, and light and shadow and dark and intense and all kinds of cool stuff. So here I am. I turn this thing on, right, and I'm like, okay, we got something here. I don't say that too often because there's so much repetition and copying and, oh, what would I say, saturation of genre styles in this business that it's like you have to differentiate by like tiny, tiny little sound differences, or, you know, this guy is arpeggiating one chord, this guy arpeggiates two chords, you know, and
Right.
but this has got a lot to talk about if I were doing a review. So I just like to ask you some things so your fans
Sure.
can find out, you know, how this came about and whatnot. Are you? I assume you're remaining with Ministry, but they're kind of inactive
Yeah.
right now, right?
Well, we're getting ready to go on tour again, which will be our third tour this year.
Wow.
We're still touring. Our latest record, Americans, came out in March of this year, and we did a U.S. tour. Then we went to Europe, and now we're starting technically the third leg of this tour.
Okay, I'm gonna
which
make
actually starts in about 3 weeks.
Here's a prediction. You tell me if I'm right. Europe liked it better.
Well, Europe is always, because you do the festivals in Europe over
Yes.
the summer, so the crowds are always bigger.
Yes.
And Europe has always been very consistent, with us. We just see bigger crowds out there just because of the festivals that we do. But surprisingly, I mean, on the first U.S. run, earlier this year, everyone was really digging it. So.
Well, you've got so many years of fanhood built up now.
Yeah,
You're one of those
exactly.
bands that could go the distance and into the age when you have walkers and instruments, you know?
Right, which we're getting to pretty close,
Yeah, well, that's cool because you always
almost there.
ask yourself, who's the next generation of super bands? Now, what kind of venues do you play when you're doing just you and maybe support?
We did the Hollywood Palladium the last time we were in L.A.
Okay, that's a big place.
Yeah, so we're doing 2,000-3,000 seats or something like that.
Yeah, so you're between theater and arena.
Yeah. We're definitely not doing arenas. We're definitely in the big venue, small theater kind of place.
Right. They usually have really good acoustics in those places, and other times they don't.
Yeah.
Because stones and bricks are falling off the ceiling, and people are getting hit in the head and shit.
Exactly.
Because it was meant for like plays, and here's this.
Exactly.
Here's a frequency that can break rock, you know. But so let's start simple. Three-headed snake. Is that something from mythology? I think I've heard of it before. Is it in Book of Revelation or something? Or was it just that sounds cool? Or was it we got a triplet here, and that's three, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out, but
I'll tell you the actual way the name came about. And this was about 6 years ago on the 2012 ministry tour. I was reading a review, and it was a photograph of me like playing at some festival, in Europe, and I was kind of at the forefront of the stage, and to the left of me was the late great Mike Scoscia. To the right of me was Al Jorgensen, and so I'm looking at this picture and I'm reading this review, and the guy described, was talking about the show, blah blah blah, and he described the picture or the what he was looking at, and he said, watching Sin, Al, and Mikey at the front of the stage looked like a three-headed snake.
wow,
And
that's a good
that
story.
stuck with me. And that stuck with me for all these years. And when it was time to come up with a name for this project, I just remembered that. And
Well, it works. I like the name, and it also invites you. The name has that kind of name that invites you to find out what it's about, because there's so many names now that have nothing to do with what's going on.
Right, exactly.
And it's not like you guys have.
I thought it fit. Yeah, I thought it fit for the style and the genre. That I went for on this project. So I thought it was a good fit for it.
Okay, now let me say something about the style and the genre. Thank you. A band, I don't care if you call it retro or back to your roots or whatever, it would fit perfectly in this decade, in this day, and probably a few, years ahead, because it's got that dual, a lot of bands are going back to, there's a band now that's playing Hendrix kind of stuff, not covers, but,
Yeah.
And then you've seen this Greta Van Fleet, have you seen them?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like they're like a knockoff of Zeppelin in their sound.
Right.
But it has enough modern convention in it that you don't really notice it if you don't want to, but it definitely belongs in this century, not this century, but so you've got that, when you can do that dual era fit, it's very impressive. I can't imagine how hard it is if you have to try, or maybe it just comes natural. But
Well, first off, thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words.
You bet.
It was something that I guess came naturally for me. It was something that I wanted to do for a long time. When I first started playing, out in the clubs here in LA, when I was about 19, that was the style I was playing. So,
okay, so was that the Decade of Decadence, or was that the death metal era, or not the death metal era?
It was sort of the tail end of the decadence out here in Hollywood. I caught the tail end of the whole Sunset Strip thing.
Oh, that's where I was. Yep, we're probably close to the same age. I bet I'm a little older than you. I'm 52.
Yeah, I'm 49. So
I fucking hate mortality, by the way. So
yeah, right. But yeah, man, I caught that whole tail end. So it was just to back up a little on how this whole thing started. I reconnected with the singer that I had when I was 19, about 3 years ago. I had lost contact with him. I hadn't spoken with him in close to 30 years, and we reconnected. We talked about writing and recording some stuff just for fun. Now that we had the resources and we're able to do it, we're like, hey man, let's record some music just for our own pleasure. And so I wrote a handful of songs, and he unfortunately fell ill and wasn't able to sing anymore. And he was that kind of singer. He had that whole chest tape kind of thing.
So he had all his pipes still together then.
Oh yeah. And so this was about 3 years ago, and so when I found out, he wasn't able to sing anymore, I was left with these handful of songs, and so I was like, man, I wish I had a singer that could do something with this. But knowing most of the guys here in LA, I didn't know of anyone that would really fit what I was,
Well,
thinking
you
about.
found one, man.
So,
That guy is. That
yeah,
guy is.
he's a monster, man. So
I
I looked
know. You could get an air
online.
raid siren for sure.
Yeah. So I looked online, and I found Johnny in Florida, and we exchanged, some emails, and I told him, that I was looking to do this side thing just for fun, that I wasn't going to go public with it. It was just going to be my own listening pleasure, and he was into it. So I sent him a couple songs, and then he sent them back a few days later, and just blew me away. And
Fuck,
this
that's
was now
cool.
about 2 years ago. And so what I was doing is, from time to time, I would post little sound clips on my social media, just, for the hell of it, and people started reacting to it very positively and asking where they could get it. So that's what got the ball rolling on, me wanting to do an EP, and
So
then eventually a video as well.
Did the label start humping your leg immediately, or?
No, I mean, I didn't. I did this all on my own, but now I'm talking to labels who, I'm actually getting approached by labels now, which it's so weird for me, because that was not how this project, started, or where it was geared.
Yeah.
It was honestly, no joke, man, I was just going to record 3 or 4 songs and just have them on my iPod, and that was going to be it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and now, once we got the ball rolling and said, okay, we're going to do an EP, and then I thought, well, fuck, if we're going to do an EP, let's do a video. And so, I called up Matt Zane, who was my old singer in Society One, and he's an amazing video director.
That's an amazing video.
It's
very dramatic, and it's very, it's really cool, especially the silent parts.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I think he really knocked it out of the park, man. And, I wanted it to be just, when we spoke about what kind of video we wanted, I told him that I wanted it to be mainly a performance video, just to kind of showcase the band.
Right.
And then we just started brainstorming a little bit more, and we're like, man, well, let's do it, kind of like the old Headbangers Ball era videos. So we brought in some people to do some headbanging with us, and then I said, well, shit, I know some fire performers. Let's throw that in there as well. And so we went for that kind of video, and I think it came out great.
Yes, it did. I mean, if I remember correctly, there's a little bit of silence at the beginning, or down tone,
Yes.
volume, and it's just kind of like, what's going to happen next, Whenever you put that kind of anticipation in any art, people just can't resist finding out,
Yeah.
So
I agree, and I'm glad that people seem to be, digging it and getting what we were, set out to do.
So the band I interviewed this morning was talking about authenticity a lot. They were pretty contrived in their first years, and then they kind of matured as a band and decided they're going to do what they want. Because they didn't have a label breathing down their neck. They did have a producer. He was pretty flexible. And now you're talking about authenticity, with the fact that you wanted to make music that no one would even hear. Hell, that's a punk sensibility practically. So it's kind of cool, and it's also impressive that I'm glad it made it to the raft here, because this is going to be a big record. I have a feeling. Because the world's ready for it.
I appreciate it, man.
The world is ready for this. I mean, we've been saturated with similar sounding bands for so long, longer than the 80s went on with, hair metal. Death metal has taken over the world, and 50 bands start every day. I've never understood why you would want to play like another band. I would want to innovate, And there's so much innovation in this thing. Like, for instance, when you start playing that opening phrase, is that down-tuned, or are you just playing the lower fret, lower string?
Yeah, I'm just in, it's a drop D. It's basically standard tuning, just with your E string dropped, to D.
That's cool. But that was a cool part.
Yeah.
I liked that. And you were was it you that was palming? Somebody,
Yes.
that is so kind of a sort of. I'm not going to put you in this class, but it has a djent kind of thing going on. You probably hate that, right?
Yeah, that was me. That was me. You know, it's funny, man. I wrote that song 3 years ago. About I don't know 2 a.m. at my house.
Fucking.
And
hey.
Literally, I was just like, I wrote actually the first song, Symbiotic, the first song on the EP. I wrote that one first, and then I wrote Wisdom Screams, and then I wrote Money God was the last one that we just wrote, like, I'm going to say about a year ago. But, yeah, it was just one of those late night, writing sessions where I'm just at home in my little home studio, and things were just flowing. Like, literally, I just started playing that riff, like it just came out.
You know, the best songs that when you hear people talk about it, I'll give you the example. It's Tired and Old, Led Zeppelin, then Stairway to Heaven. That just came out. It came out of their instruments on 2 takes or 1 take, and they didn't even want to put it on a record. Next thing you know, it's the most played song in history, to the point where it's ruined, you know?
Right. No, it's true though, man. So, usually the best ones seem to be the ones that just kind of flow out of you and just kind of write themselves.
Yeah. I love being in the zone in any pursuit I can, because it feels like everyone else is moving in slow motion, kind of. And you can there's nothing you can't do. You're fearless, you're whatever. So that's cool. There's another part at the beginning of the introduction to the video where your bassist does something I've never seen before as well. He shreds the bass.
Yes.
Whose idea was that? That was fucking cool as shit.
That was actually, it was my idea and our producer's idea. Michael Rosen, Michael actually produced the last Ministry record as well, and that's how we met him. And he had a lot of input on this EP, but we were both kind of brainstorming on what the bass should do. But I had different variations of what I had written on bass, and we both kind of came up with that little run there.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have bass players showing up in droves, because the personality of a bass player tends to be they think their contribution a lot of times is writing. They help write, and then they keep the rhythm. But there are bass players who have really taken it to another level, and I'm not saying that yours did, but it went straight to the bottom instantly. You could tell. A lot of people can't tell you, well, that's a bass, but I can. But it just went, everything dropped out of the floor right there, and then it came back, and it was cool.
Thanks,
maybe other people have done it. Never seen it myself. So you got some innovation in there, and that's what it's all about, if you ask me. Is being individual, authentic, and having things that inventing new styles, inspiring new styles, stuff, new approaches.
Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks for saying thank you, because you are on stage one of the most imposing, charismatic-looking individuals I've ever seen. You look like a giant, first of all, and you're probably not that tall, but you look like, if you don't...
I am not tall at all.
But I've seen you in front of the monitors or something, or put your foot up on them, and it's like, this man will eat me alive if I don't smile, So you're probably channeling your stage persona there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It's more of a... for me, the place I am the most comfortable is on stage. I am way more secure on stage than I am anywhere else. That hour and a half that I'm up there, I'm literally in my complete natural state. There's no insecurities, there's no fear, there's nothing. It is just 1,000% me. So I think that that maybe just comes out while I'm up there.
Yeah, it was. So I was born a headbanger. Okay. I mean, as somebody who can appreciate darkness as well as light and music, that was cool to me. You know,
Thank you, man. I
and
really
I see
appreciate
pictures
it.
of it and I look at him and I go, that fucker is so cool. So, one where you got
Thank you.
sunglasses on and it looks like you're about to go murder us any minute. So,
Thanks, man. I do honestly appreciate it.
you're welcome. And this kind of thing is what I do this for, because it's a few and far between, but it's starting to happen more often. And what I'm talking about is innovative bands who are, I believe, going to start pointing metal in a new direction. And it's about time, I think. But I don't dislike death metal. I don't dislike the atonal growlers. But I think about the
Sure.
first 5 to 10 were cool, and they innovated it. The extra million that came along after, how do you differentiate them? You know, subtle
Right, exactly.
differences in brutality. You have to use metaphor. What the hell does a chainsaw sawing through a van sound like? You know, you've seen the reviews, right? This is like a 747 crashing straight down into a junkyard. Okay, I want that record. What does that mean? So we try to describe the musical conventions, and then that turns out boring. So we kind of mix it up a little bit,
Sure.
and we'll say, well, there's this cool part at 1 minute and 41 seconds where the bass does something many of us have never seen. It probably is truly unique, and then there's some awesome imposing silence at the beginning of the video, and I presume at the beginning of the song. Is it that way as well on the audio? Okay, so the track starts playing, and you're watching the clock, and there's nothing, and then all of a sudden it kicks in. Okay.
Yep.
So, was there a time in your life, seeing when you had a moment of truth where you suddenly knew this is what you were going to do for the rest of your life?
Yes, definitely. And
All right.
I was 6 years old, and it was when my older cousin brought over Kiss Alive.
Oh my God.
And I was literally, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was we were living in these like tiny apartments here in LA, and my older cousin brings over Kiss Alive, and I'm sitting there by a record player, and he's showing me the album, and this is late '75, and I'm looking at him, and I was like, "Are they superheroes?" And he's like, they're a band." And he drops the needle on the record, and that opening riff and Deuce starts playing.
Yeah.
And literally, no joke, that was the moment my world turned completely upside down. And I just listened. We listened to the whole Double Live album as I stared at all those pictures and that booklet that are inside it. And I told him, this is what I'm going to do.
You told somebody?
I'm doing.
Okay, that's
I told
fantastic.
my older cousin this, who was 5, he was 11, I was 6. And that was the moment, man. And from that point on, no joke, I mean, that's been my, I had blinders on, and that was my life's goal was to do this.
That is a gift. I'll tell you what, every accomplished band that has done something that is marked by historical value in its art says that same thing. It's just a weird phenomenon. And the ones that have had that experience can name the date, time, song, everything, just instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Some people think about it because they want to answer the question, but I mean, you just went Peg, boom, 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 Kiss Alive, blah, 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 blah. So I think that's a cool.
Remember it like yesterday, man.
That is hyper. I mean, these social things that happen to artists, they seem to go in, go together, and it's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you have someone that's 6, for God's sake. So Deuce on the opening of Kiss Alive, and was that okay? Which one was more popular, Double Live Platinum or Kiss Alive, or was it Kiss Alive 2?
Yeah, I went Kiss Alive, and then Kiss Alive 2 came out in 77,
Yeah.
And then Double Platinum came out after that. But Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2, I mean, are both of my favorite Kiss records, just because they encompass all of the early Kiss shit,
Yeah.
And, but Kiss Alive, I think if I had to pick between one, it would be Kiss Alive, just because of the meaning behind it and how that's the one that did it for me.
I would agree with that, and part of my reason is it's one of the first. Well, we were in an era back then where live music had an equal footing with studio music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But nowadays, it's mostly studio. They throw the live album out to cover their contract if they're in a contract or something.
Right. Totally.
But that is still one of the best records there are, and it often shows up in top 10 lists as the number one live album of all time.
Yeah,
right after UFO Strangers in the Night.
Yep, I agree.
So that's what that is a unique quality to it as well, and the crowd probably did something for your emotions as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and you got to remember, man, like you said, that was a different era we were in back then. We didn't have everything, in front of us right away. We waited for things. We looked for things. We, sitting by that record player, listening to that, man, and just looking at the pictures, and you're just imagining these things in your head on what it was like and what, what the crowd was feeling. And when you're hearing that roar of the crowd, and, it was just, I mean, it took you to a different place, in your head.
Oh, totally. I daydreamed constantly that I was, I had a messianic complex almost, that I was up on stage performing and people were like crying and trying to get up there and doing the Beatles crowd thing. I have a very active imagination when I was young. I still do, actually.
I think a lot of us that grew up in that time did.
Yeah. Now the millennials, they're going to go, uh-oh. This interview's at 21 minutes. It's only supposed to be 7 seconds,
Exactly.
But I gather a lot of material and then I cut it in, and it's okay. So we don't have a lot of millennials in our audience. What they do is they cherry pick records. Music still comes out in an album format for the most part.
Uh-huh.
And albums are a group of songs that may be thematically representing a period in that band's time of evolution. But they'll go ahead and they'll cherry pick the hits and leave the deep tracks alone, and they don't know what they're missing out on, or maybe they don't care. It's just interesting.
Well, I think it's both, and oftentimes, I mean, there's some amazing music that just gets passed over.
Yes, there is. Like The Elder. Oh, no, not The Elder. I did talk to a guy one time. He was a Kiss fan, and he was in the band called the Minneapolis band. I can't remember what it was called. They were a club level act. Said he played every year he and another friend would play a Elder theatric performance with music, and I went, okay, that's not good.
Wow.
But I don't know what they were thinking then. But the record that came out after that, Creatures of the Night, that was one of their best records.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome record.
Yeah, I mean it really changed the game a little bit for Kiss, and it had a lot. It was mixed so well.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So okay, so you had the moment of truth. Has anyone gotten a three-headed snake tattoo yet?
Not a three-headed snake tattoo yet. It might happen because I mean it's so funny. Like I've signed people's body parts. And I've gotten my signature tattooed, which is really crazy to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. ultimately flattered. I think it's super cool, but it's super crazy to me because I always think, I'm like, I'm not a rock star. Like, I'm not fucking Slash or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, people do crazy shit for guys like that are actual rock stars. So when people do that for someone like me, it's super flattering, and it's like still a little surprising and stuff. But
Right.
there's probably about a dozen people with my signature. There's a couple with my actual portrait on them as well, which is really bizarre. So we'll see. I mean, and there's tons of Ministry tattoos, obviously, but we'll see if somebody does a three-headed snake one soon.
Well, you know, the thing about that is the way I look at it is some of my favorite bands, and everyone when they're younger, they go, this is my favorite band. And some people are picking something that's not, you know, in the arena yet.
Right.
And they're, you know, but they just love it. And because they like the sound, it hits them right. They've taken the time to listen to it. They went through the record racks and flipped and liked the cover. You know, remember when we used to go through record racks and just flip one after another? God, everything's dead. Yeah, I miss that whole ritual, but, you know, time just keeps moving, so.
Me too, man. Me too. I used to go through, there used to be Music Plus out here in LA back in the day.
Yeah.
It was a record store, and I used to go through their trash bin to pick up the album covers that they would fill out, that they would have them display. And
I did the same thing, but I hung them on my wall.
And I would, like, my room used to be plastered with all these record covers.
That's exactly the same thing. I had this, it was like a tiled wall with record covers, one after the other.
Yeah.
I asked them if I could have them when they took them down. And
yeah, exactly.
some of them, you know, were weird. Like I had a Tommy Two-Tone up there, and I just put whatever I could get up there. But
sure,
that's a coincidence. I didn't know anyone else did that.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought I was the only one that did that too.
Yeah. Okay, so and you remember the big tapestries? Those are selling pretty good again too.
Of course. Yeah.
And see, I bought a Morrison tapestry because I do like Jim, and a Maiden Number of the Beast album cover picture tapestry, and they're back here in the studio I'm in, which has a couple gold records on the back there too that I got. Now I'm going to ask you another question, sort of off topic. Do you know a guy named Jason Fisher?
Jason Fisher?
He might have called your publicist recently and asked if you wanted to be on an interview where you drink whiskey throughout the show.
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know him, but Tom did mention to me an interview about drinking whiskey in a show, and I don't drink. I've never drank in my life.
Okay, that comment right there is... See, I did drink. I drank to a flatline, and I you know, if I wanted to live, I had to quit. And I was always what I sought out as people who to ask questions were people that just never didn't care for it. I couldn't understand it, but it was like, to me, they were the true champions, and so that's surprising that you have that characteristic. I mean, it is just a fucking cleaning solvent, and it's very it's very blunt object high. It's not smooth. It's like whacking yourself over the head with a club until you're dizzy.
Yeah, see, I mean, I've never drank, never smoked, never done any drugs. I've done nothing in my life.
Okay,
like
that's
zero. Like I've never had a sip of beer. Like nothing.
Okay, was that by design, or you just thought, what the hell? I'm not.
I was never thirsty.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
No, it was, you know, honestly, man, I wish I had, like, a better answer other than I was never curious about those things. You know, when I was about 13 or so, and I first started playing, little garage bands and stuff like that. Like, that's the first time that my buddies, because I would be about 13 and I'd be playing with guys that were like 16, 17, and we'd be sitting around the garage jamming, and then they'd want to take a break, and then that's the first time, like, I saw a bong, and, they would bring out beer and weed and whatever, and I was just like, man, let's get back to playing. I wanted to play.
Right.
I was already just completely focused. Like, I knew what my goal was, and I started to see how these guys would act different after they did that stuff. And I was like, man, that's kind of weird. Like,
I bet you the reason you didn't.
Myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet the reason you didn't drink is because you were comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was, and I think growing up, I wasn't so much, but I was too focused on music, and I knew that I didn't want anything to deter me from that. And
okay,
I knew that I always felt like I wanted to be in control of myself and my surroundings. And honestly, man, it was just like I wanted to do music, and I was like, let's go, let's just get to that. Like, screw all this other stuff. Let's get to that. And that was it. So cool. I think once I passed that hurdle of the sort of peer pressure that I would feel in the beginning, which didn't last long because I was very just people would hit me up and be like, hey, dude, do this, do that, and I'd be like, no, I'm good. And I think they saw that I was just pretty dead set on not doing it, that they would just kind of leave me alone with it.
Yeah,
and they saw that I was just
that can be a tough high school for people.
Yeah.
Because you might become an outcast, but if you're cool and you got an axe in front of you, it wipes all that shit away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, though, man, is I was not the cool kid in school at all. I was not popular. I was not part of a cool group or clique or anything.
Nah, yeah.
I had a very, very small group of friends, literally like a handful.
Right.
That was it.
That's
but
me,
but I didn't care because I had my guitar and I had my music, and I really didn't give a fuck, what people thought about me. But I definitely was not like a popular, cool kid in school at all.
Yeah, I had the same experience, except that I was trying to be, which is the opposite of what you did. I wish I'd have had the mental and just the maturity of being mentally healthy and having those proper ways of thinking about yourself. But my parents were fucking blotto almost every night, so there wasn't a lot of education, and I don't blame them. I'm not gonna push this off on them. I fucking put the bottles to my mouth. I still love my parents, but it was just a nurturing thing that happened,
Right. No, I totally get it, man. And with my parents, my dad would have a beer every 6 months or so.
Yeah, you'd leave half of it behind probably or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't really see that at home. But again, I'm also like you in that I don't put everything. If I had, I had plenty of chances to do it if I wanted to do it, So I think a lot of it has to do with what you see at home, but a lot of it is also your own personal decisions and just being who you are and what you're surrounded with and what you're thinking and feeling at the time. And I think that's what sometimes gets people involved in certain things,
and some people don't want to do it. Like, for instance, when pot was in my era coming around, it's not as strong as it is now, by any stretch. But, and I don't do any narcotics. I don't even take an aspirin if I can help it. But, or a mouthwash or whatever. But, I do have good breath though, so don't get me wrong there. I just don't. If it's an alcohol, I used to drink Listerine to get a buzz if there was no booze around. So I.
All right, sure. No, I know, but I know plenty of guys that have done that, man.
Yeah, it's like I came out of the bathroom one time, and this girl I was dating at the time says, Have you been drinking mouthwash?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, well, your breath sure does smell good. The things we do are funny now, but they're just pitiful when you look at it from a different lens. I feel like a lucky person that I made it to the raft because most don't.
Right, exactly.
And if you look at Seattle, man, what in the hell's going on up there?
Yeah.
I actually was watching Velvet Revolver last night on the video, and what's his name? Is it not Lane Stanley? Scott, the guy from Stone Temple Pilots was singing for him.
Yeah, Scott Weiland.
Scott Weiland, and they were doing Fall to Pieces, and you watch that video and you go, this guy is overdosing as we watch. But I'm sure they cut it in.
He was falling to pieces while he was doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the power of music, okay? Frequencies change, come out, hit your heart, and you start to cry. Or you have a huge adrenaline rush. Or you think you can conquer the world. I mean, music is feeling, it to me.
Exactly.
And I have to have it. If I don't, I just get into this dull space where I'm bored and everything. I like to move myself with that art. So, and it's a gift if you can do that.
Same way.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same way. It like to me, like I've often told people, is music is like breathing to me. If I don't have it, I would literally just die. Like, it's something that I'm always surrounded with. I always have. It's always in the background. It's always like, I need to have it. It's what feeds me. And, it's weird to think how weird or off I get when I don't have it around me, or when I'm in a situation where I can't, listen to it, or I can't, be, either writing or doing something with it because I'm completely off.
Yeah, or you live with people who don't have the same feeling, and you crank something up, and you go, check this out, and they're just all looking at something else.
Like, you get the chills, you get goosebumps, and you're trying to explain that to somebody and show it, and they're just looking at you like,
oh shit, he's giving us another metal
and you're
clinic.
Just like, and this piece of music is moving you, and it's like the most beautiful thing you've heard, and you're trying to describe that to someone, and they're just looking at you like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, what are we having for dinner tonight? Shit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll say, man, can you see that I'm giving a class on metal here? Come on. Yeah. So I'm glad you said that, because it makes me feel like I'm not alone in the obsession, not obsession, but the meaning it has.
No, but I get it. I've often used that word as well, man. But no, you're definitely not alone. I feel the same way, and I often feel that from when I try to describe it to people as well, and it's such a moving thing, man. And I can literally sit, man, and listen to something, and it could bring me to tears. Or
me too.
The happiest. I mean, it literally moves every emotion, and I mean that's what music does to me. But clearly, it doesn't do that to everyone. Other people just hear it on the surface.
Yeah, they just hear sounds. Or people that like quirky songs, like the Violent Femmes or something. That doesn't have a real emotional push.
Right.
It's just sort of wacko.
Right.
They're in it for something else. I don't know what it is, but
I totally agree with you, man.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one question about ministry. Can I do that?
Of course, man.
I mean, sometimes when people start their own band, they don't want to go back catalog.
No, not at all, man.
Would you say that ministry was one of the founders of industrial music?
I would say so. I mean,
or even the founder?
Well, if you add, I'll tell you this. I'll answer it by even bringing up Al. Al himself, when he's asked stuff like that, he often cites bands like Throbbing Gristle, Neubauten, as the guys that sort of started it. But if you're talking to people who say, well, who brought it to the forefront, I would definitely have to put Ministry there at the top.
Absolutely.
Clearly, he took, ideas. He took influence from other bands and other projects that might have started, had tidbits of it, had sort of that style going on, but didn't really bring it to the forefront like Al did. My opinion, Al was definitely the one that did that.
Wow. Well, that's cool to be a part of something like that. You guys will make it to the Hall of Fame, I hope, but if you're not already.
Yeah, I don't know if we will. We've been nominated for a Grammy 6 times. We haven't lost, or we haven't won, rather.
I know bands like that, yeah. Sometimes I feel like the Grammy rubes are just trying to throw somebody in so they cover the bases. I mean,
right,
Jethro Tull, the barefoot guy who plays the flute.
When they beat Metallica.
Yeah.
It's such a joke at times, But I give much credit, man, and to Al and for what he did with Ministry and to the genre,
Cool. Okay, so I've got 47 minutes. I'm going to cut it down. I'll give you the full tape if you want to listen to it.
Cool.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of bizarre questions here before we close. What I have in my hand right now is a pill that will grant immortality. Do you want it? I'll give it to you.
No, I don't want it.
Okay, it's a curse, right?
Yeah.
Death gives meaning to life. All right.
Absolutely.
So,
without it, there would be no meaning.
Yeah, everything has to have contrast to mean something.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's a very erudite way of saying it when you say wouldn't be any meaning. I just wish it wasn't so around the corner,
Yeah.
I'd take an extra 20 or 30 maybe, but
yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that.
Okay, so then the next question is, what is your theory, if you have one, or, well, actually everyone has some theory, even if it's nothing. What do you think happens when you cross over in death?
Well, I'll tell you, I had a near-death experience about 4 years ago.
Are you kidding? The last interview I did had one, and I've had one. I flatlined for 3 minutes.
I'll tell you, and I'll try to make it short here. I had a kidney stone. I've had 3 in my life, but this last one,
God.
I had a 9mm kidney stone that would not. It was impossible for me to pass. So, long story short, I went in for a laser lithotripsy surgery, which breaks up the stone.
Oh,
well, during the procedure, there were complications, and they rushed me back to the ER.
Uh-huh.
And that night, I went into septic shock.
They pumped septis in you by accident.
No, I was basically dying. All my organs were shutting down, and I had gone septic. So, I was literally dying that night. And while I was being put into the elevator to go down to the cardiologist floor, the elevator door wouldn't close. And during that moment, everything started to go black for me.
Oh, shit. That would be...
And, some people say they see a light or whatever. I didn't see a light. What I saw was darkness and 2 almost like tunnels. One on the left, one on the right. And the one on the left was pulling me. Like it felt like a magnet. Like my body wanted to go into that. But I knew that if I went into that one, I was not going to wake up. I knew that.
Okay, so that was kind of a metaphor for temptation to do something.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the one on the left felt like there was more resistance, and like I was going to feel pain and whatever, but I knew that one would keep me alive. So, I mean, this is no joke, man. I'm clean and sober my whole life, and I'm literally in this. Imagine being in this pitch black room, but you can see two openings, one on the right, one on the left, and feeling your body being pulled towards the right, and knowing, oh, I'm not going to feel any more pain. Everything's going to be cool, but I know I'm not going to be on this earth anymore. So I did what I could to fight that, and I went into this left side, and as soon as I did that, the darkness kind of went away, and I was back in the elevator, and at that moment, the elevator doors closed, and we went down to cardiology, and I ended up staying in the hospital about 2 weeks, but yeah, man, I knew that if I would have gone into the right, I would not be here today.
Okay, did you get this stone out?
What's that?
Did you
yeah, we got it.
So do you have it in a jar on a shelf or anything like that?
No, because they broke it up. They actually broke it up. So it like pulverizes it, basically.
That is a fascinating story, without a doubt, because it's metaphorical in its way of giving you that choice,
Yeah.
And I believe you, okay, because I flatlined in the emergency room at one point for a long time, and I watched the green line shoot across off of the monitor and across the hall and into another room, and they got out the jumper cables, and had to do it 4 times.
Jesus.
I was not conscious at that point, but I didn't see the light either. Although there's this painter called Harmonius Bosch who paints the most bizarre paintings. He's from the 15th century, and you can't imagine what he paints. But he painted a bunch of people ascending through this tunnel into the white light. And
wow, really?
I just thought, how in the hell did he get that idea? And then he's got one where he's got a big creature vomiting up people. I mean, who was buying this art back then?
Right.
Where's God? Where are the saints? So mine was not real remarkable. I didn't see myself from overhead. It was more of I was conscious of what was happening, and because I had a 300 some beat per minute heart rate, and I could not get it down. They just shoved every.
Jesus, dude. Yeah, I was at like 210, 215.
That'll scare the shit out of anyone.
Oh,
just
Jesus,
feeling it.
Man.
Yeah. So I came back, and suddenly everything had meaning in life. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I wasn't running around picking dandelions and shit, but I was like, fucking world is awesome, man. There's so much shit to do. And that's how I've been ever since. But I believe you, that's a cool story, and I love those kinds of stories. And the guy before you had one, I've had one, and you've had one.
Wow, what a trip.
Yeah.
What a trip, man.
There's something there. That's something in the 3.
Yep.
Okay, so I like your... So when I asked you what you thought was... what theory you had, you started telling me that story, but did you tell me your theory?
Well, I mean...
Reincarnation?
I'm a pretty open-minded person. I don't really rule anything out and haven't ruled anything out.
Right.
So I think that there is something else. I think that we go to a different place, which could be reincarnation, which could be, just a whole other existence that, that could happen.
Right.
But can I pinpoint it? No. But I do think that there's something else. I don't think that that's it, our soul dies, and that's it.
It can't. According to the 4th law of thermodynamics, and I only know this because I've used it in the argument, nothing can be created or destroyed. They only change.
Right.
So I'm in the same camp with you, but I do believe this. There's no way I can never, ever know what it is.
Right.
And I get that answer comes from time to time. One thing I have decided is that it's not indifferent to the human condition. It's whatever happens. I've chosen to believe that it's not going to be hazardous. It's going to be built for humans. You know, there has to be pain, because if you have nothing but joy, you don't know what it is. You can't possibly know what it is if there's no pain. You know, and so
totally agree, man.
And so that's where I'm at with that. And that's pretty much the last thing I'll say is, is there anything you'd like to say to your new fans of Three-Headed Snake?
You know, just a huge thanks, man, to everyone that has supported us, that have been showing us all the love and support. We're really honored and flattered by it. It was something we really weren't expecting, but we're pleasantly surprised by it. We are working on a full-length album for 2019 and possibly some shows in Europe in 2019 as well. So, you know, we're definitely going to do this as long as people want us to, and we all have a blast, you know, playing with each other. So, you know, we're going to continue for a bit.
Okay, folks, we've been talking to you. Sin Quirin, formerly of Ministry, has now got a band that's
still with Ministry.
Huh? I'm sorry.
Still with Ministry.
We're talking to Sin Quirin, a member of the band Ministry, who's done a side project that's remarkable. And I'm going to tell you, you need to buy this record, and you need to pay for it, because it's valuable. Music has value. It's not made for free. And that concludes our interview for this evening.
No, man, I'm good. Just let me know whenever it goes up, and send it to me, and I'll post it on all the social media stuff.
Okay, so it's audio, right? So what I usually do with audio is I find some dramatic photos out of wherever that would be reflective of you or ideology you share, or something like that, and I usually put it into a slideshow, right? That kind of moves with the music. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
And you don't have a label, right?
No.
So that means I could background your actual music with Three-Headed Snake.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's good to know. Okay.
Yep.
Because that'll give us a really nice beginning blast off.
Yeah, and you can also, from Tom, just have him send you the MP3s, and he'll send them to you.
He offered that to me, and I thought I had them, but now I'm excited because I'll spend the afternoon listening to the rest of it.
Yeah.
All right, Sin, this has been a really interesting, intriguing interview. You're a really interesting person, and you got a lot upstairs. So
thanks, man.
You're a trend breaker.
I have to be.
You're a goddamn rock star who doesn't do narcotics. I mean, how many of those are there?
This has been my favorite one so far, man.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Me too. I hope I can meet you in person sometime. I'll go out of my way to see this outfit. So
awesome, man.
Thanks a lot. Have yourself a great what is it? Thursday today?
Friday.
Yeah. Is it Friday already?
Yeah, man.
Thank God. All right. So have yourself a great weekend if you take it off, and keep doing what you're doing, man. You got a lot of people that are really impressed, especially around the gauntlet here. People like fucking were doing cartwheels when they heard that first track. So.
I appreciate that immensely, man. Thank you very much.
All right. Have yourself a good weekend.
All right, brother.
Take care, man.
You too, man.